Some of you decided to pull Seed because of the story. Maybe you just like the character and then somehow you won the 50-50, which is something that actually didn't happen to me. But I guess it's time for me to actually make a Seed guide. But we're going to make things really beginner and casual friendly because I don't want to go into a lot of detailed stuff, especially because honestly, I think that Seed is actually a really good character for more casual and beginner players. Nothing wrong about this. It's just that there's not a lot to optimize and not a lot to break down when it comes to Seed gameplay loop and Seed kit as well. Let's start with a quick overview of the agent. Seed is another electric DPS, even though we have plenty of them available in the game. At the very least, Seed is actually quite unique because just providing something that attackers, teams in general, they didn't have access to, which is double attacker team compositions. So this adds something new, refreshing to the game, but the thing is that this means that you are forced to play Seed with another attacker on your team. Because without the second attacker, you're losing the potential of the core, you're also losing all the additional ability because the only requirement to activate additional ability is to use another attacker. So you can see right here a quick test that I did using Seed Astra, Soldier Ambi, and Seed Astra Trigger, and you can see that the damage difference is really massive. Also, as I said, Seed gameplay is quite simple, there's not a lot of room for optimizations here, which means that the floor is quite high because her multipliers are actually quite amazing. But since there's not a lot of room for optimization, the ceiling also feels a little bit too low. So if you are just like me, someone who likes optimized gameplay, then Seed is not going to be that amazing for you. But if you just want a really consistent and solid DPS, then Seed is a pretty good DPS. Now, when it comes to gameplay, I said, once again, gameplay is really simple. You need to play around the resource generation, this thing that you're looking at the top left, to use downfall as it's the name of the actual attack. And this is going to be your main source of damage. So basically, you want to generate as much resources as you can and spend them in these punches so you can keep dealing damage to the enemy. And how do you generate resources? Well, you generate resources whenever you keep dealing damage to the enemy using Seed, and whenever you spend energy on the second attacker, as long as it's the active character. This means you need to be controlling the character and using the energy in order to generate resources for Seed. Also, another thing that you need to keep in mind is that you need to keep refreshing the buffs, both for your attacker, and the attacker also needs to refresh the buffs for Seed. It's naturally going to happen because as long as you're spending energy both on Seed and the other attacker, you are definitely going to keep this buff active on both agents, because whenever you use your Seed EX special, you buff the second attacker, and whenever the second attacker uses EX special, they are going to buff your Seed. So this is the basic loop. Just keep spending energy over and over, generate resources on your Seed, and keep punching the enemy as much as you can. Okay, just remember to try to save resources for the stun window. Personally, my rotation that I use for all this gameplay that you're looking at the background is really simple. It's always, I start with a punch on the enemy. As you can see right here, I swap to my second attacker. I use an EX special in order to generate back resources for my Seed. Chain attack, cancel the chain, ultimate for even more resources, and then I finish with another punch. The rest of the stun window goes to my second attacker, where I can spend all of the remaining resources, ultimates as well, in order to deal some extra damage. Okay, so this is the basic of the gameplay. It's super simple. Just keep punching the enemy over and over, save some resources when you're close to the stun window. The ultimate is really amazing. Despite the long animation, it has a massive damage multiplier. So always try to save your ultimate for the stun window so you can get all of these damage with the stun multiplier. For skill upgrade priority, focus on the core skill, since this is going to be the buff provided for both attackers. Then you can go for base attack, since this is your main source of damage, ultimates, then EX special, and then dodges and assists can be left as low priority, but honestly, they can deal both good damage and base potential as well. So leveling them up is quite recommended, but they are definitely the last priority here. And now let's talk about the parts that actually matter. Let's talk about building your Seed. For the 4-piece, Dawn's Bloom is one of the best options, but there are some other interesting options. I made a video explaining exactly why Dawn's Bloom is not that amazing on any attacker, including Seed, but the TLDR is that it just provides damage and only damage for your basic attacks. Yes, basic attacks are the main source of damage on Seed, which, once again, that's why Dawn's Bloom exists to begin with, but you're not increasing the damage on the ultimate, and I mentioned that the MV on the ultimate is quite massive. With the Pack Electro with 1 stack, which is exactly what is going to be happening with your Seed most of the time on stun windows. You can see right here that it's quite similar damage potential as Down's Bloom. So if you already have good enough Woodpeckers, there's no need for you to go for Down's Bloom. You're not getting a lot of damage here out of it. Now, one interesting option is actually using Astral Voice. For Soldier, Ambi, and Astra teams, I managed to actually get better scores by using Astral Voice instead of Down's Bloom. Because once again, Astral Voice is giving 24% damage, and this damage is going to increase the ultimate damage as well. And Astra can go on Moonlight Lullaby, since Moonlight Lullaby is restricted to support agents, and now Seed can use Astral Voice to add some damage to both her and Soldier Ambi as well. But you need to have a quick assist sources on your team, which this usually means that this is going to pretty much just work with Astra in your team. For the two-piece, the best options are going to be Woodpecker Electro, Branch and Blade Song, and Puffer Electro, depending on your substats on these pieces. Depending on your current subs, either Woodpecker or Branch is going to be better, because if you have a lot of crit rate, Branch and Blade Song is better. If you have a lot of crit damage but no crit rate, Woodpecker is going to be providing some good value for you. Down's Bloom and Astral Voice are not going to be that amazing as the two-piece only. Down's Bloom is only providing 15% damage. It's pretty low, honestly, and just on your basic attacks. And Astral Voice, depending on the team, for example, here on the stats, we're using Astra and Seed. So this means a total of 2200 attack, flat attack in combat. So Astral Voice two-piece attack is not providing that much for you. So no reason for you to run Astral Voice and Down's Bloom, honestly. Stick to Woodpecker, Branch and Blade Song, and Perfect Electro as your two-piece choice. Next up, let's talk about disc stats. For the disc 4, you're usually going for crit rate or crit damage, but attack is the worst option. Usually it's going to be crit rate because of how low Seed crit rate is, but if for some reason you have plenty of subs on crit rate and using a disc 4 is going to put you above the cap, you can go for crit damage as well. For disc 5, you should run penetration or damage, or even attack, depending on your substats and the team that you're running. Just to give some examples here, if you're not running Trigger or Nicole or any source of defense shred on your team, this means that penetration is going to be the best option. And for disc 6, the only option here is attack. There's nothing much to talk. It's the only offensive option. For substats, focus on the classic crit rate, crit damage, and attack percentage, and then you can leave flat penetration and flat attack as your last priority because they are not going to be adding that much damage for you. Now, for weapons, it might come as no surprise that Seed Signature is going to be the best option for Seed. Cortis Gemina is actually a pretty good engine, especially if the agent that you're playing deals a lot of damage using basic attacks. That's because whenever you hit the enemy with a basic attack or EX special, you gain one stack of a buff that increases your electric damage, and once you have both stacks active, your base attack and ultimate are going to ignore 20% of the enemy defense at phase 1. So the electric damage, of course, just works for electric DPS units, but defense ignore on both base attacks and ultimates works on every agent. If you don't have access to Cortis Gemina, you can use Heartstring Nocturne as another option. Pretty good crit stick available in the game, but you can also go for more free-to-play options such as Brimstone and Marcato Desire. Now let's talk a little bit about Mindscapes. Mindscape 1 is quite simple and interesting because it reduces how many charges you need in order to use the punches, and as I said, this is the main source of damage. You also get some extra crit damage on these punches. Overall, it just increases the main source of damage on Seed. Mindscape 2 is also quite interesting. It increases even further the potential of the double attacker teams, because the thing is that it provides defense ignore for both you and the other attacker. So this is quite good because it increases not only Seed damage potential, it also synergizes really well with Seed Signature. As I said before, more source of defense shred means more potential here. So this is not only going to increase your damage, it's also going to increase the damage of the second attacker. Mindscape 4 is a little bit hard to measure. I'm not adding another ultimate because it just depends on how you're spending your death spells on the enemy. If you're just using your ultimate on stun windows, then chances are nothing's going to change here, or maybe this is exactly what you need in order to consistently achieve ultimates on every single stun window. But point is, it's hard to measure. This could either be a good damage increase or not, depending on how much death spells you are already generating on Seed. In Mindscape 6, it's just more damage. That's all I have to say. Basically, nothing's going to change on your rotation and you just get more damage. My personal recommendation for pulls is go for Seed first, then the Signature Engine after getting your Seed. Because the Signature Engine is pretty good for Seed, can find some uses on other units as well, but most importantly for Seed, it's a pretty good damage increase. Speaking a little bit of team compositions for Seed, the problem is that you need to have a second attacker on your team, otherwise Seed is not getting all her core mechanics and additional ability active. So you're locked to use another attacker on your team. This attacker could be really anyone that you feel comfortable playing, but ideally you want someone that can just deal damage in short bursts, especially if they use energy as well, because as I said, spending energy is really important for Seed. It gives you more resources. Some examples of characters here that you can use is going to be Harumasa, G1, Soldier, Ambi. Another option is to use the second attacker as a battery for Seed, and you do this by going for energy generation on slot 6, and also using a weapon that provides more energy. The more energy you can generate, the better, because the whole idea is to have an agent that is just going to be spending energy and generating more punches for Seed. This can work on any unit, so if you don't want to play a second DPS and just want to play Seed as the main DPS, this is a really good approach for a lot of units. Which, by the way, this is exactly what Orphe is kinda doing with Seed. We are focusing on a lot of energy generation in order to maximize the attack buff, and by doing so, you provide attack buff back to Seed, and you also have plenty of energy to spend and generate more resources for Seed. The only thing you need to keep in mind is that Orphe needs to be the active character in order to generate resources for Seed. This means that the Aftershock are not going to generate resources, but as long as you swap to Orphe and use an EX special, you'll be generating resources for Seed. So this is all you need to keep in mind when it comes to Orphe and Seed synergy. They are definitely good, and I hope in the future we can get more multi-class units such as Seed, Orphe, and Soldier MB as well, because it's a quite interesting concept. Units that are going to deal damage but also provide some utility buffs for your team. For the last slot, my personal recommendation is to use Astra, but any support or stunner works really well here. Even better if they are not going to be taking field time from Seed, because the more you field Seed, the better for your second attacker and the better for Seed as well. So characters like Jifufu, Trigger, Astra, Nicole, any support in general, they work really well here. And that should be everything for my Seed guide. I hope this video could help you understand a little bit of how you should approach the Seed gameplay, build, and also teams. But if you still have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below or join my Discord server. I'm always happy to help you understand exactly what you need to do and how you can achieve a better clear on your deadliest shield defense or whatever you're trying to play. You can also catch me live both YouTube and Twitch, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.